Shalom Mashpaka. Today I want to go over some dietary guidelines that I would like to bring about that have already existed in scriptures that are now being brought forward again. The people would no longer have to kill anything that is alive to survive. They would only be using what is enriched from the soil, what is given from life itself, and never taking anything from it that would kill the life that it came from. This would be a natural way of living, one that is the original way that came from the time of Adam in the Garden of Eden. This diet is called the Eden diet. And this goes along with Genesis chapter 1 verse 29, as well as other procedures at that time that would have most likely happened that you would have been able to eat like this. I'm going to go over some guidelines of the diet right now and just kind of give a foundation of what it would look like. Start off with the fact that we would now be consuming basically a plant life diet that would involve not killing the plant when harvesting crops from it. Basically anything that harms the life from where it comes from in any type of way that would destroy or kill it would not be included in this diet at all. At the beginning, this is how it goes. Grains. Base meals on whole grains like brown rice, barley, oats, millet, and quinoa. These are harvested without killing the plants. Seeds are collected and the stalk may regrow or be replanted. There are such ways to harvest grain by not uprooting or scything, cutting down the plant. There might be ways to be able to hand process these plants, shake the plant to drop the grains, and other things like that would allow the plant to not be killed, that it would continue to grow again. Next would be legumes, including lentils, chickpeas, soybeans, kidney beans. These are sustainable and harvested from pods without destroying the plant in many cases. Next we have vegetables. Focus on leafy greens, kale, collard, spinach, broccoli, cabbage, fruity vegetables, zucchini, tomatoes, cucumbers that can be harvested repeatedly without killing the plant. If you want leafy greens, you do not cut down the whole plant. You could just take the outside leaves and leave the center, and it would grow back again, continue to produce more. But if you uproot the plant from the ground and harvest the entire plant, the plant is now dead and it cannot produce anymore. Some of the ways that they were harvesting some of these vegetables that are named here are still not considered ideal for this diet because it would kill the plant of where it came from. The life would cease. Moving on, we have fruits. Apples, pears, berries, citrus, stone fruits are encouraged. Harvesting fruits does not typically kill the tree or the bush. These are produced from the plant and they are what it bears. They are meant to be consumed. Seeds that are eaten inside the fruit would come out in your excrements and then go into the land and then be planted. The seed would then have a chance to grow a new plant in that location, which leads into the next. Nuts, seeds, almonds, walnuts, seeds, flax seeds, pumpkin seeds. These are gathered without destroying the plant and are clean ways of eating what crop is produced from these plants. Next we have sea vegetables. Nori, wakame, kombu, and dulse are nutrient-rich, sustainable harvests from seaweeds that regrow. Dairy, such as milk, yogurt, or cheese from humanely treated cows or goats are permitted, ensuring that the animals are pasture-raised and not mistreated. The milk that would be produced from these cows does not harm the cows in any ways. However, if you are killing this cow to produce this milk, then it would not be allowed. That is why we do not kill any animals of any kind to consume them. Next we have avoid eggs. This is a hard one to narrow down because in scriptures it does not state an exact law for eggs on its own, which would theoretically mean that you could eat any eggs of any kind, which would probably go against the law itself of what it means. We are supposed to be a people, a clean people, a pure people. So I have wrote down what I would think that would be to avoid eggs in this type of manner. No eggs. as they represent potential animal life and are not in line with the Eden principle when avoiding animal reproduction byproducts. Even animals that produce eggs naturally without a male parent involved, such as hens and roosters, these fowls were not excluded in the dietary law, but they themselves eat flesh. They are omnivores, that if the opportunity would arise to eat a living being, such as a lizard or a bug or a flesh of any kind, they would do so. In theory, if there was seeds and plants and things like that that were in front of these types of animals, they would eat that first, yes. But if there was nothing else in front of this animal and there was only living creatures, it would choose to eat that. It might even be opportunistic to eat that over the plants and seeds, thus showing the fact that these animals are not clean. This would make them unclean to this type of diet that I'm showing now. Examples of a clean animal are the cattle and herds that only chew the cud, but if there was no cud available, they would not turn to eating living creatures of any kind. Mashpaka, we are finding out that living creatures are napash, the same as us. They are living beings, they have souls. We would not want to kill life from any living creature from that could potentially be saved. Moving on, avoid root vegetables. If lethal harvests, such as carrots, potatoes, onions, beets, are excluded if their harvest kills the plant. Alternatives, green tops of carrots, garlic scapes, or perennial vegetables like asparagus, are bilineal vegetables harvested without killing the crowns. These types of way would actually be okay to eat because therefore the life would continue to produce again. Do not take from the entire life, only what life would give from itself. Moving on, this would go along with a seasonal organic approach, prioritizing organically grown seasonal foods to support natural cycles. The cooking methods would still basically be the same. Steam, simmer, bake, or saute with minimum oil. Use miso, tamari, ubashi, plum, or any type of non-animal based oil and herbal teas for flavor. No animal fats of any kind are allowed into this diet. No using of animals' fats such as ghee that would require rendering animal fats. Killing the animal would be the only way to receive this type of oils or fats to cook with. And scriptures also state that animal fats are never to be consumed. Therefore, things like ghee and any other type of animal fat that would require killing the animal to receive it and harvesting from it, as well as it being a fat, an animal fat that is never to be consumed according to scriptures, this would fall in line of being excluded from the Idon diet. Next would be to avoid processed foods. Exclude all manufactured items, fried foods, refined sugars, any type of caffeine, alcohol of that sort. They are excluded from this diet, but they are not totally excluded from the law, Mashpaka. You can still consume wine and things like that. Cooking wines are still okay. The idea is to focus on whole natural foods and do not support the system that is in place right now that we are all consuming as consumers and byproducts from the system that is here, being that you would go to a grocery store and such instead of having this in the land that you are living. Hydration would be drinking filtered water. Things like reverse osmosis, ionized water would be probably the most cleanest way of having water. Herbal teas and plant-based milks like coconut, almond, or oat milks are also okay because they come from the seeds, not from the plant or the tree itself, killing it to receive this milk. This diet is primarily on mindful eating, eating in a calm environment, chewing thoroughly, and align meals with natural rhythms. For instance, the apple test. Eat only when experiencing true physical hunger, enough to eat a plain apple, not due to craving for sweets or snacks. This promotes mindful eatings. Portion control. Consume smaller meals spaced throughout the day. Divide larger meals into 2 or more servings to avoid overeating. The whole idea that we need to obey the food pyramid and we need to have 3 square meals a day, this is the lie. This isn't the most healthiest way for us to eat. Additional proteins would come through supplementations like whey or plant-based proteins. Other nutrients, if there arise a need for excess, would be through natural vitamin-enriched foods and processes naturally into concentrated forms. Benefits would include the following. The foods in this adapted Eden diet would the whole grains, legumes, seeds, dried fruits, and shelf-stable dairy like hard cheeses can store significantly longer than any fresh meat. When kept in cool, dry conditions or properly preserved, grains and legumes last months to years, and fermented or dried dairy products also have extended shelf life. In contrast, fresh meats spoil within days without refrigeration, and even in freezers, they only last a few months. The Eden diet would completely restore our initially planned way of eating since our creation. This giving us a conscious-minded way of eating to signify a pure lifestyle as sacred people. Any living being that would destroy or take away from life would be saddened. This diet would fix this mentality, preserving the land with food as its acting gardeners and cohabitation with other living beings. We would no longer be a part of the problem, but would instead be its solution. As man was chosen to be the acting rulers of the earth, we would be the conscious-minded beings of what our actions would do and set an example for the living creatures that are upon the land. In this process, we would be at oneness with nature. Finally, completing the cycle from the time Adam in the garden to the present. We would obey the commands and see the fruits we would bear as renewed people in the faith of Yahuwah. Finally, Mashpaka, this diet is not a law or mandated by commands. In an emergency with no food of any kind, it is necessary that you would still be able to eat flesh according to the law. It's only this way that is described in the Eden diet is if you are trying to live the most correct way to eat with a correct cycle and a correct representation of yourself for all the living creatures that are in the world. As this does not condemn the law of what it stands for, the law itself is an option. We are never adding to the law or taking away from it. We are only setting our own standard of the law that we are keeping. In an emergency situation ordained by Yahuwah, it is okay for us to consume these other types of foods, being flesh and killing of plants if need to. But we would try and avoid as much as possible. That is all, Mashpaka. Ahaba Shalom.